In the quaint Midwestern town, the residents were not prepared for what would rock the foundation of their village. A town full of corruption with a seething underbelly was about to be brought to light. A family searching for answers, hoping that the ones meant to protect them would do just that.
Um,
Oh,
Rudy,
hey, Barrel
Rudy,
Roller. Hey,
Rudy.
hey.
Hey, I was sitting here setting up for the podcast, and I was,
Uh,
what do you, question,
yeah, yeah.
what are you doing?
Well, good to see you. Didn't see you there. I've always wanted to do a true crime podcast. They're pretty big. People love those, and I figured I don't really have time to do one, so I'd try and combine a true crime with the Royal Out the Barrel show.
Uh, what was the crime?
It was a crime of passion.
They always are with you.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. So you want, like, we got to get to the interview. We got to,
And honestly, I still have a little bit more investigating to do. So yeah, it's fine. We can get to the interview. Totally.
cut to the end. Who did it?
The husband.
It's always the husband. I was going to say the butler, but that's weak. Hey, it's Roller on the Barrel Show, talking to vintage baseball players from Coast Coast Butter. This week we have two fine guests right here on the podcast. We're talking to people in warm weather.
Oh,
Duh.
gosh.
I am your host, the Barrel Roller, Matthew Bernard. I am joined by my co-host and life partner, Rudy Swampbox Frias. Rudy, talk to the people, would you?
Oh, hello everyone. Oh, I am just so excited. I look forward to Monday evenings every week, and this evening has not let me down.
Yeah, so we're gonna go right out. Bill Pollifrone. There's no way I pronounced that right. But we're gonna bring him in. William, all the way from Florida. How are you doing?
I'm good. You were close. It's Pollifrone, but it's pretty close. Closer than some of the people that call me on the phone.
Pollifrone. Is that right?
Pollifrone, yep.
Pollifrone. I'm just supposed to say it faster so you don't really notice.
Yeah,
Pollifrone.
that's the secret.
Pollifrone. Bill, you are synonymous with Florida vintage baseball. And right now, we can do nothing but think of you because of how warm it is where you are and how cold it is where we are, and how wonderful that would be to be able to play baseball, except when it gets into the hundreds. Bill, you had an event just 2 weekends ago that my shadow team, the Canton Corn Shuckers, were there, and notice I wasn't,
Uh,
but I almost was. Plan started and then plan stopped. But Bill, before you get time to regale in the vintage baseball scene in Florida for everybody, tell us how that event went a couple weekends ago.
I've gotten good feedback from the participants, so I'm going to take that with a good grain of salt that it went well. The weather was perfect. It was well, perfect. I'd say for if you're in Florida, because we're in a little bit of a heat wave here, so it was like 85 degrees at game time on Saturday and Sunday of the event. So uh, for us, it was warm. I'm sure it was really warm for the participants. Brooklyn came down, the Atlantics, and of course the Corn Shuckers, as you alluded to. So we had 4 games on Saturday against the traveling teams took on the home teams. So I actually have the scores. So the Awkwards and the Atlantics played first. The Atlantics won 10-6. Then the Vagabonds played the Cornshuckers, and the Cornshuckers won 17-0. And then the Vagabonds played the Atlantics. The Atlantics won 17-4. And then the Canton Cornshuckers took on the Awkwards, and just say they laid down a butt whooping of 32-3. And then Sunday, since both teams were undefeated, the Canton Cornshuckers took on the Atlantics, and they put a thrashing to them too, 35-10. I can say the first time ever playing the Canton Cornshuckers that they're impressive on the field, really, really impressive to watch. They can hit the gaps with almost at will. The championship game saw 6 home runs all through long hit gappers into the outfield.
Oh, wow.
Now it's tough for you guys, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Florida vintage baseball scene hasn't been around very long. The reincarnation, and you can tell us some of the history here in a second, but when you get teams like the Brooklyn Atlantics and the Canton Cornshuckers come down to Florida, you're anticipating an ass whooping right now. I mean, you just haven't been around long enough with that caliber of talent coming down to Florida. So you're trying to establish events and establish relationships, but you also understand what's going to be in store for you on the field as of right now. Now, that's not what the future holds for Florida vintage baseball, but as of right now, you have to understand that, right?
Oh yeah, we knew that going in. Seeing as the Florida baseball scene only started in 2015, so hasn't been around that long. And we're still trying to get cohesiveness of the core players on all the teams. So we knew that there would be a little bit of disparity between the skill levels of these clubs that have been around for a long time against clubs that have pretty much are still in their infancy.
We're talking to William Pollifrone from the vintage baseball scene, captain of the Awkwards. Is that still true?
That's still true.
Let me ask you this. You guys were at the Ohio Cup last year. Who was playing shortstop for the Awkwards?
That is Tito Martinez. We call him Chatterbox.
Yes. Could you pass along a message to him that I would love to have him as a guest on the show?
I will pass that along.
I talked to him at the Ohio Cup. He's a great dude.
Yeah, and pass along this message to him from me that I would not like to have him as a guest on the show, just to have that conflict and see what he does.
I will pass along both messages.
Okay. Thank
you. He has no fear of talking. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's what we like here on the show. Bill, tell us in the time that you have left, tell us about vintage baseball reincarnation in Florida, and maybe some of the history of the past that people don't have any idea about when it comes to Florida.
So we finally have 3 teams in Florida. The Bradenton Shamrocks are on their first year as a team. So that's been helpful to have more than 2 teams, because you can only play the same set of clubs so many times before it becomes okay. This is kind of getting annoying. So we're happy to have a 3rd club, and our sights aren't set for that. We would love to have, if we could have 8 or more teams in Florida. That's the long-term goal here. But first we have to keep going with the, solidifying the 3 that we already do have. Because every year it seems like you always have to be recruiting. And it's not just a Florida thing. That's a vintage baseball thing everywhere. let's see. What else on the Florida front? Next year in 2024, we're going to have host the VBBA annual conference in Fort Myers. So
Nice,
that's
nice.
huge news for the
Yeah.
Florida baseball scene.
Oh, did you just break news? Are they going to get mad at you? Is that breaking news?
You heard it here
No, no,
first,
no.
folks.
We break all the news. I haven't seen anything on that. We break all the news right here on Rural Earlsboro. VBBA conference coming to you from Fort Myers, Florida in 2024. You're welcome, world. Uh, Bill, have you attended any of the VBBA conferences?
Yes, and I'm going in to the this year's in Dayton. That'll be my third one attending. I attended last year's, and then it's been many years since I attended the first one. That was probably around 2003, 2004, something like that.
Rudy, are you doing anything with the VBBA conference in Dayton?
No, I mean, I was planning on attending. It depends on when my son's birthday party will be falling. But because it's right around that time. Um, no, I hadn't made any plans. I mean, if anything, I was thinking about going and checking it out because I haven't been to one since I'm lazy. I haven't been to one since it was here in Columbus. So,
Oh, well, you kind of attended the one that was on Zoom during the
oh,
pandemic.
well, yeah, I
That
presented for 2 years.
right, that doesn't count though because like they
Yeah.
don't want to give LeBron his championship in the bubble, so I can't give you that attendance.
Fair enough.
Uh, Bill, have you done any presenting at the VBBA conferences about Florida?
No, no, I haven't. I have wonderful teammates that would be much better at presenting than I would.
All right, we're breaking it here in 2024 at Fort Myers VBBA conference. You'll be having presentations from the awkwards, the guys who can't shut up.
Yeah, we have one nicknamed Chatterbox and the other one nicknamed Motormouth. So they they love to talk.
I love that.
But that's fine. Bill, how much of a Major League Baseball fan are you currently?
I'm actually I'm actually at some crossroads that even like a minor league game is can be just as entertaining as Major League. I think Major League is starting to get their pricing some of their fans out. If you ask me, I would be happy to watch some low A game and spend $6 on a ticket and be close to the action instead of paying, uh, Tropicana Field isn't that expensive, but there's other cities where, yeah, you try to bring a family of four to a baseball game, and you're probably dropping a couple $100 or more.
Rudy, I'm always amazed at the number of vintage baseball players we talk to that have a less interest in the major league product than they do in minor league baseball or some other stuff. Um, how do you feel about it?
Um, you know what? I feel the connection is stronger in the minor leagues and single A and independent and all that because the focus is more on the fan experience and it feels like a more accessible baseball game. Like just to me in general, I feel like in the lower levels in A ball, it's, you're going to get not these giant stadiums. You're going to get a smaller park, a little more intimate. And, it really rallies around, these towns, these small towns that represent these teams. I feel like that's what the draw is. Do you like all that barrel roller? The
Uh,
single A?
well, we have a developmental A club here close to home. It's the Great Lakes Loons, and we've seen people like Clayton Kershaw come through here, D Brown, maybe a couple others. But really, for the most part, you never hear these names again. And Dow, the large corporation that it has backed the Great Lakes Loon. So the stadium is fantastic. It's a great baseball atmosphere. The baseball isn't that great because they're fresh out of high school. I mean, they're developmental. And if they show any promise whatsoever, they're gone. So there's no relationships here. And so on a personal level, I'm much like would rather be around a major league baseball team.
Really?
Because they're with the teams longer, and when they move to another team, it's such a mainstream sport that you still can keep track of them and see them what they're doing with other teams. I know there's a lot of movement nowadays, so not cool. But I will say I just tuned in for the first time to a spring training game to check out that pitch clock. And I love it.
Big
I
fan.
love it. The pace is much. I mean, it's the baseball players' fault. Back in the 80s, baseball games weren't lasting but 2.5 hours. And then it just
Yeah.
kept going up, 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 and up. And it's just because of the players and all the nonsense they were doing. And Max Scherzer, by the way, the other night, Max Scherzer was screwing with the clock so much.
Yes.
It was annoying. It was annoying me. I'm glad I wasn't watching the game. I saw it like on Sports Center, the
Well,
games he was playing with the pitch clock.
well, it's interesting. I love it as well. And, people, not to take up too much time and bring it back to Bill, I feel like who really got their finger on the pulse immediately about how to get baseball back to a more inclusive experience for everyone are the Savannah Bananas. And my cousin is my cousin is actually going to be doing an internship with the Savannah Bananas front office this summer, or actually no, next week down in Georgia. So that's going to be a great experience. And I know that because Bill, I believe, didn't you get into the lottery for tickets?
Yes, I did. I got to see them in Tampa. It's the first time they've come to Tampa, so
That's amazing.
looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
I feel like
their
baseball. Yeah.
fan interaction. The something that can tie to the fans that they can enjoy.
Yeah. And Barrel Roller, you'll like this. All concessions at Savannah Banana games free. And you can bring in your own cooler of food or drink to the Savannah Banana games.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts. Yeah, they got something going on there. It's not baseball, but it's like professional
baseball.
wrestling baseball.
Oh, here we go. Get off my lawn.
Well, it
Here
is.
we go.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it's different.
Not baseball.
It's not the same thing.
Oh, it's baseball. Whatever.
I mean,
hey,
yeah. Like how baseball's cricket.
Bill,
did the Harlem Globetrotters really play basketball? I mean,
they won every night, Bill. They only lost once.
Fair point.
You got to put the ball in the basket to get those points. They won every night.
My goodness.
Incredible talent.
I wanted to follow up. What else is on store for Central Florida baseball there, Bill? Honestly, you got two of the most revered clubs in vintage baseball, in my opinion, down for an event. It's obviously growing from, I think the last time I was down there was 7 years ago. What's in store for Central Florida vintage baseball? Besides the VBBA, obviously we broke that.
So we have Terry Park. We've been doing it. This is going to be the 4th year that we're doing it. Last year we were able to get teams from up north. This year, last minute cancellations happened. So now it's only the 3 clubs in Florida taking part in this. But we're hoping to have the Kissimmee Cup get to that point too. This was our first one. We're hoping to keep annual tradition of that going. The Pine Castle Pioneer Festival that hosted the Kissimmee Cup, it's our third year being with them, so we're starting to build a good relationship there. And uh, Zolfo Springs, we started this year playing games at the Pioneer Village in Zolfo Springs, and they really love having us there. So we're going to try to actually, it's, I'll try to describe, it's kind of middle ground between Orlando, Fort Myers, and Bradenton. So the traveling between all these cities, rather than having to spend 3 hours to get there, it's like an hour and a half for the furthest club away. So we're going to be looking to push even more games to Zolfo Springs, because their grounds there are like where they have us put the field is wide open except for one tree in middle of center field. But other than that, it's wide open and a beautiful place to play ball. So we'll be exercising that a little more. And yeah, we're like I said, we're still recruiting. So if anybody out there and listening to the podcast knows somebody that's interested in playing and is in Florida, have them look up one of the teams that's closest to them. Like I said, recruiting is a nonstop thing, but it's not it's not only us, it's everybody.
Preach.
So,
Yeah.
including grocery stores. Bill, thanks for being on the show.
thanks for having me.
Thanks for giving us a little insight into what it's like in the warmer weather right now, where baseball's actually happening. Was great to see you last year at the Ohio Cup, and I know that our paths will cross in the near future. You'll probably see Rudy before me. He's a man amongst the world. But thanks for joining us. Hope you have a good night. Hope you have a good season. And by the way, trees in the outfield add character. So I suggest you plant a couple more. Rudy?
Oh no, Bill, this is such a treat. It's so good to talk to you. You stay safe down there, and yeah, have a great season, buddy.
Yeah, yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. See you later,
Absolutely.
bud.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Hey, Rudy. Before we is Darrin here yet?
Um, yeah, it says John entered the waiting room. So, I mean, I'm sure that's probably his government name or an alias.
Oh, interesting. Hey, before we bring him in, let me look at the time here. Oh, hey, I watched Casablanca last night for the first time ever. I've been on this kick recently of watching old movies. I have to admit, I don't watch old movies. I haven't my entire life because I don't feel like they're gonna suck. I feel like they're gonna suck because of the movies that we can watch nowadays, not because that they sucked at their time, right?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to you?
No, it makes perfect
Or,
sense.
or whatever. Casablanca. It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's okay.
It's not terrible. It's not as good as White Christmas and what's that other holiday one I just watched for the first time lately? What a Wonderful Life. Those are two really good movies. But Casablanca, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Still not great,
Yeah.
but still, it was all right.
Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall got married in Malabar Farms, Ohio, which is just about 45 minutes north of Columbus, rough hour of Columbus. Louis Bromfeld, the writer, playwright extraordinaire, yeah, they got married at his estate. So that's my callback connection to Casablanca. So.
All right, and before we bring in Darrin, I want to talk about two more things quick. One, if you're watching the show The Last of Us, it's a big show right now, and I think there's only one more episode left next week. 3 episodes ago, there was a scene. There was a scene where they're in this cabin, and there's this older native couple that lived in the cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and the gentleman of the married couple was in a little vehicle you might know, a little Bruce Willis vehicle as Die Hard 3, as one of the police officers, the one that was trying to sober him up in the van.
Yeah.
And ran to the roof with the children when they thought the school was going
Wait
to
up, that guy
explode.
ain't dead? That guy's alive? Good
That
for
guy
him.
ain't dead. He's still alive and kicking in The Last of Us. Also this week, Tom Sizemore passed away. And you might know him from a little ditty, a Bruce Willis vehicle, as his cousin in Striking Distance. And I think we just brought up Striking Distance a couple weeks ago, and I suggest that to everybody as well. Hey, let's bring in John.
Got it.
Darrin Tenney from Arizona.
Or John.
And or John. We don't know. We don't know.
It could be. It says John. So,
You know what I miss about these settings that aren't working is you don't get to listen to the failed Titanic theme anymore.
oh my God.
But I just played it.
I hear it in my heart. Does that count?
Your heart will go on.
Okay. Hello, John. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, let's see if I can get the camera working here.
Rudy wants to know if John is your government name.
John's my government name.
Yeah.
It was a tough transition for me because I went by my middle name, Darrin, growing up because there were two other guys, my dad and my granddad, were named John.
Uh-huh.
So if the phone rang, especially when I was a teenager, and I always had somebody looking for me. Yeah.
Yep.
Darrin. You were talking about my dad. The rest my granddad. So
That's awesome.
That's
awesome. As an individual who is familiar with going by stage names, and my name is Rodolfo, and so Rudy, I can totally relate to that.
Let me give him an intro worthy instead of us just randomly bringing people into the Zoom, which I like the comfortableness of it, but let's let people know who's in the room. Straight from another warm state, as we just got warmed up in Florida, and now here we are going out to Arizona. He is synonymous, or was, and we're going to get into that, with Arizona Vintage Baseball. He is the author of a book, Baseball in Territorial Arizona, a History, 1863 to 1912. You can buy that on the Amazon right now. It'll be at your house tomorrow. There's only one copy left, brand new.
Come on, guys, somebody snag it.
I was going to buy it, but it wasn't going to be here in time. And
No.
so, but it says there's more on the way. Is this true?
You know, it is. And let's put the good folks at McFarland to work. I mean, you know, they need the business.
So, yes, it's Darrin Tenney. Darrin,
hey guys.
how you doing?
Hey, good to be on the show. Long time listener and fan.
That's you're lying.
Geek.
I'm sorry. My condolences.
You're
Oh,
really, I enjoy what you guys do. Yeah, I do.
Oh,
nice
sometimes I do too.
Well, it's nice to plug in. Especially, I've been pointing everybody out here in Arizona to start listening to your podcast because it's a great way to plug in and get connected and stay connected with the Nationals. So,
yeah, and we just started, doing more Arizona. The things in the areas where there's not a lot of vintage baseball going on in these reincarnated areas like California. I mean, they do have a lot of vintage baseball, but Rudy and I come from an area where it's way oversaturated. And so California, Arizona, Florida, those places where they don't have a lot of teams, Colorado, they enjoy their vintage baseball. It's just a different scale than what we're used to. And once we started hitting those spots, the reaction and response was incredible. So we get more of a response from the West and the South and the East than we do the Midwest. I think it's because I'm always bad talking Midwest vintage baseball. Maybe I should stop that. Rudy, should I stop?
No, don't go changing. Right?
No. If you don't, well, if you've been almost typecast, or if you typecast yourself, you better stick with it.
It's a character. It's a character.
You've got that going. You've got it firmly established. The writer of me says, don't upset the apple cart.
So Darrin, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about you in vintage baseball and everything Arizona vintage baseball from the beginning up until you revealed to me you've kind of broken up with vintage baseball a little bit emotionally, and we're going to try to get you back in love with it and back on the scene. We'll see what happens, and then we'll have a news break in the middle, and then after the news break, we will get into more about you on a personal level and how you used to or still do sell life insurance. Is that the most boring part?
No, I do not sell life insurance. Thank God.
But we're gonna find
I
out what you
escaped.
actually do and stuff like that. And did you bring a guitar?
No, but I can get one. I mean, I can easily set one up like quickly with like a little tube. Like I've got a portable amp that's in the other room that I can grab.
All right, sweet. So what we're gonna do here is halfway through, we have a 3-minute break. We do a news break with Jonathan Macklin. And when we start that, you can set up a guitar during that time and we'll be ready to go after that. Oh, I'm excited.
Okay.
I'm excited.
I'll see what I can do.
All right.
Okay.
Darrin, let's start with you in the very beginning. How do you come across vintage baseball and how did you fall in love with it so much that you put so much effort into it?
Well, this is, gosh, it's been a long time. We're talking like 2006, 2007. I was really more curious. I was at work, bored. I mean, just bored. You know, I got stuck in the stock room, like doing shipping and stuff. I'm like, okay, I've been done for a while with my day-to-day stuff, and I gotta have something to do to make me look busy. So I started looking online for some stuff, and it was more of a curiosity to see the history in Arizona, who was here before, and it's kind of went down this rabbit hole, just doing a bunch of Google searches, and I stumbled onto the Vintage Baseball Association website, and had my mind blown by just going through it. Like, okay, there got to be somebody in my area. There's got to be somebody here in Arizona. Nobody in California. Like, okay, but in Mexico, I'm like, okay, that's 3. So I was like kind of stonewalled and went, okay, let's put this down for a while. Because I went through it and I was just enthralled. I found the whole idea, just Civil War era baseball, to be beyond romantic. I don't know why. And so I put it down for a while. And it was kind of one of those ideas that just never really leaves you alone. And so it kept popping back up and popping back up. And it's one of those things where you kind of know that if you just wanted to play, then you got to do something yourself. And so that's kind of where I started. Is I just started posting flyers at softball parks in the was it the Northwest Phoenix area, Glendale, North Phoenix, and really
let me ask you before you move on, Darrin, before you move on past that, I'm curious, when you were putting flyers up at the softball fields, what was the reaction from the people that weren't interested?
You know, they just thought it was a curiosity.
Jokes and all that?
Oh, yeah. They're like, people were just like, they didn't know what to make of it. They really didn't. And I remember that really came into play because we were doing more like, I guess it was like tryouts and scrimmages and stuff. When we did eventually form another team, we would go out to the same place that I had posted flyers, and people would stop by, but they never really knew what to make of it, and so wouldn't stay for too long. And so, yeah, I got a lot of jokes. Like, what is that? What are you talking about? Playing without a glove? You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're totally crazy. Especially, I remember after one night and we were doing infield practice, and we had a kid from Grand Canyon University, and we were just doing double play practice. And I remember he turned one, and yeah, he fed me like the hottest ball that I've ever been hit with on base. I don't know how I did not break my hand. Caught it with one hand and flipped it to first. I to this day do not know I didn't shatter my right hand.
Oh man.
But my hand burned for days. It was just like, oh my God, it just lit me up. I'm like, but people didn't really know what to do with it. So, for out here, it's because we're so urban. And yeah, so we struggled with that, getting out of the identity of just being another baseball product.
And the first thing everybody talks about is the no glove.
Yeah, it's
but
so iconic. Everybody thinks they gotta have a glove. I'm like, no.
but the uniforms,
Oh yeah,
the uniforms is what draws everybody in.
true.
The
Yes.
and so what were some of the early uniforms and teams that you were coming across in the history of Arizona?
So everything begins with the military posts, and especially in places like at the time that were large population centers, which would have been Tucson and Prescott, especially Tombstone. And on the cover of the book, okay, you see all these dudes. That was taken in 1887, August 14th, on the grounds at Fort Lowell in Tucson. I know that because I actually dated the photo. I know the guy who owns the original. So he kind of went back and forth, and he's like, if you could find a date, I would love you forever. 2 weeks later, I had the article in hand saying, yeah, I even know the guy who took the photo, who eventually turned out to be one of Arizona's earliest state senators and governors, made by the photographer by the name of Rhodes.
Wow.
So you found guys that were really never officially like super uniformed. They were just playing in the shirt sleeves, rolled up, and the most uniform thing that they had about them were the pillbox caps. I think the first club that ever dubbed itself as a uniform team came out of Fort Huachuca in 1884, where you could tell that they actually had sent away and paid for uniforms in 1884. So it feeds to the look of the guys on the cover, which is around 1887. So that's where it really starts, is the military. The military brought it out here. And for years, I've been trying to nail down the guy who was a captain of the 5th Cavalry up at Fort Hualpai in Prescott. His name is Captain John Mason. And I'm pretty sure that cat had everything to do, and this is the world's first. I'm pretty sure that's who brought baseball to Arizona, was Captain John Mason, because I've been able to kind of search his military record for his career, and he was doing posts as far back as the upper Midwest, and he even had service contact with the group with the Ben Teams. Everybody knows the Ben Teams. And so really it was like trying to find all this stuff, and it just took a while. And so really the early stuff is all about the military, because then they would branch out into towns and say, okay, we're going to help form a 9 and get everybody going so that they could, play back and forth when they had time. And then we're not out of control.
I've got two questions up to this point. One, it starts in 1884. Are they starting with overhand baseball? Are they playing by current day 84 rules, or did they bring a past product to Arizona and start with that?
I'm because of the remoteness, and I think they were dealing with a past product, possibly the late 1870s. But I also believe that Arizona never really saw the one-piece ball used. We started using the figure 8 ball. So I think they were using an 1870s product, just because you see activity start in the 1870s and then carry forward. So I think they're using an 1870s product. That's how it starts. And definitely, with newspapers coming in, because a lot of these everybody's from back east. So they're getting all those product advertisements in newspapers and magazines like Harper's Weekly, and newspapers from New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago. They're all coming in, right? So you're getting the information one way or another. And so, yeah, I really do think when it picks up that they actually are using late and 1870s, right in the very early infancy, dare I say, of the National League.
My second question is, why do guitar players always refer to people as cats?
I have no idea.
All right,
I thought that was a jazz player thing.
Is it jazz?
It's
I don't know.
incredibly cool.
I'm like, I have no idea why jazz guys do that. I'm like, I have no idea. They're like, eh. Like, what?
Can you tell
I
us?
never. No
Can you
idea.
tell us when baseball is starting in Arizona, what time of the year they're trying to play?
They played all year round, dude.
Really?
Yeah, like I heard people's like, oh, they're not playing it in the summer. I'm like, yeah, they did. It's because the weather was so much different than it is now.
Good point.
Very much different. Okay, the metropolitan Phoenix area, like we've got a heat bubble going on just because of how much asphalt, concrete, and all the other stuff that comes in, pollution, all that stuff. So, in looking through all the newspapers, one thing I did kind of keep in mind of is all the ambient temperatures that were going on. I didn't see anything peak above 95 degrees. Wow. And that's tolerable.
Well, yeah.
It may not be super comfortable, but it is tolerable. You're not going to drop over. So the weather was just much different than it is now, because of, we've changed, we kind of changed everything. So they were more looking at baseball as a diversion, and it was like, okay, we'll put together stuff for New Year's, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Obviously, 4th of July was big. And then, when they had time, then, yeah, they did have teams a little bit later on as the Indian Wars were dying down. After 1890, you see the Indian Wars finally conclude. And then you start seeing tours where teams are going on these small regional circuit tours.
Wow.
Because they didn't have the time, and the economy was changing, and things were just becoming less transient. Because Arizona is very transient. It was very hard to make a living out here. And a lot of people were savvy enough to think, okay, well, if it ain't going to work out, I got to make a decision. Push on to California, or do you stay here and risk it all? Most people chose to push on.
Okay.
Because they knew they had a better chance of success out in California.
When these teams start traveling around and everything, you said it started with the military. Is the military kind of not as involved at this point? Is it just leftover people from the military that are continuing on the baseball? Or because when you start traveling around with baseball, you kind of lose the military aspect of it, do you not?
In certain spots you do. But in this day, actually, there were actually groups of soldiers that were on leave that they would go over. And then I'll use the example of Tombstone and Fort Huachuca, because they're really, kind of real close to each other. The soldiers would wander into Tombstone. It was a form of entertainment. And so they was like, yeah, we'd have there. And then later they would do informal games when the soldiers had the time. They were actually on post. They were playing in the middle of post. So we never had anything like formal, because that was just it was always against what the military does. It's like, you're a soldier first, we'll give you some free time, then you can go play baseball.
How much did the military like the baseball? Did they enjoy their soldiers playing it? Were there high-ranking officials playing in it, or did they just view it as kind of an exercise, extracurricular activity?
Well, here, when you have places like Yuma being accurately described as probably the worst post in the Army because of how hot and dirty and just awful the post was, soldiers, being out here in the territory was hard sledding for a bunch of different reasons. And the quickest way to get dismissed from guard duty or any of the other duties on post was to show up drunk. Show up soused. So early on, the post commanders are like, yeah, we need our first sergeant to say, hey, we got to get these young guys a way to get rid of some of this extra energy. So they did like baseball, and there are records of officers playing with enlisteds as a form of just, hey, yeah, we can all come together, have cohesion, and and have a great time. But yeah, they did. It was a form of, we got to keep control of younger soldiers out on the frontier, and we're trying to keep their behavior because very stressful out here.
Absolutely.
How much?
Rudy, your question?
Yeah. How was this an immediate draw? Was it like a duck to water for you? Was this immediate, like delving into the history, or and was it easily accessible, or like as far as finding out the answer to your questions?
Well, that's a great question. Oh, it's a really deep question. Holy shit.
Did you hear that, barrel roller?
It's a
That's
great
deep, dude.
question.
That was a very good question.
I want to hear the answer to this question.
This is good. I found that the more questions you ask, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. And this is so true, because I started out with a Sabre publication and entitled From Mining Town to Major Leagues, which is now out of print. So I happened to grab one. And it was the lead article by the late Dr. Jeb Stuart Rosebrook Sr. His son is the editor of True West magazine now. So it was that article by his dad. It was like, okay, that left me with so many questions about other places, other times, the military thing, everything. And so what it did is it kind of gave me this giant shove into, okay, no one else has written about this beyond this article. There's got to be more. And at first, it was somewhat easy because there's partial stuff that was digitized, not very much. And so I got forced into having to, go to the ground or go to ground. And actually going to all these institutions to look at microfilm. And it started at Arizona State University. And I looked through their collection. I went through the Arizona couple of historical societies and organizations that were associated with the ASU, and I went through their collections. I had to do a lot of work with some administrators on the state level, because getting access to state stuff was restricted because of budget. So yeah, I had to work through channels, but a lot of times it was not very easily accessible. I made a lot of trips to Tucson for the main holdings of the Arizona Historical Society, because there's still, as much as there is, most of it is not digitized. You see less than 5% of it digitized. So it really forces you to go to ground. And you got to sit there and read everything 2 or 3 times to make sure you haven't missed anything. And so it was a very slow, painstaking process. And so there was a lot of stuff that I was afraid that I would miss. And so I slowed down a lot just to kind of cast a very wide net. But at first it was, when you start finding teams, and then you would lose things, like they would just disappear. And you'd be so addicted to the games and finding the people, especially when the papers would describe their uniforms. Boom, it was mind-blowing. I remember feeling goosebumps 2 or 3 times reading newspaper accounts when they were describing what the uniforms actually look like.
Wow.
Per color, like Tucson, Globe, telling me, yeah, white, and all the trimmings. And I'm like, goosebumps, just reading all these, really these ancient newspapers, going, oh my God, this is the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And for me, reading through this stuff, I could mentally see the picture of seeing, just how locals reacted to it, because it was always a heavy draw.
Wow.
Way back when. And so that's the approach that I tried to take with the book, is to try to paint the picture of, if you got sucked back in and you're witnessing, you're seeing this stuff. And yeah.
Wow.
Well, in the beginning, when you're going down these rabbit holes, you're only going down these rabbit holes due to history. You're not seeing any of this. You're not watching any vintage baseball. You've got nothing but books and articles and all of that stuff. What kind of a baseball fan were you before this started?
Okay, so before I started with the book, I had been playing vintage for about, I want to say 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I ran a team. Of course, you watch the World Series. I mean, get addicted to playoff baseball, no matter who's in because of the, just the action, the tension. The hardest thing about it, believe it or not, was putting down playing vintage. I was having to make the sacrifice of time and saying, okay, I'm digging for all this important stuff and trying to put our state on the map, and I can't play. And it's like, okay, I can't be two places at once. This is digitized, and I'm having to make all kinds of excuses and ruining friendships left and right. You know what I mean? It's like friendship sabotage. And I felt bad about it because I loved playing vintage. When the associations and the friendships are good, vintage there's nothing that can beat it. Nothing. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in the world that beats vintage when the associations are good, everyone comes together and you keep it pure. Then man, it's magic, dude.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Things go wrong, man. Things go wrong. And so I really felt bad about having to say, okay, I really got to put it down. And yeah, so I was just surrounded by it. And I had to build a library too, like my own personal library. I went out and purchased stuff to read and notate and stuff. I've got over 55 volumes, including several like encyclopedias and other references from SaberWorks on my own personal. This is my own personal baseball library that was just assembled to do just this tiny little guy.
When is the sequel coming out? Arizona Baseball Part 2.
Okay, so a little teaser because my publisher has been asking, and I'm working on something that revolves around just the military. We're going to focus on the military because you guys are we're interested in that, but we're bringing in specifically coaches, the Indian Chief coaches, because it's a big story that's popped up in True West magazine. And I'm going to try to dig in to see if coaches, because I've got a line, some personal records from Fort Bowie that it's the good stuff.
Wow.
I suspect that the story is true, that Cochise was actually at a Christmas baseball game in 1874 at Fort Bowie.
Two things we've broken tonight.
Wow.
The VBBA conference in Fort Myers, Florida in 2024, and Cochise playing in a Christmas vintage baseball game.
Yeah, in 1874.
You get all the information right here on Rural Earlsboro. We've got all of it. Darrin, let's take this opportunity. By the way, you are the father of the reincarnation of vintage baseball in Arizona. You shouldn't lose any friendships because life changes. I mean, look,
it does.
I don't play vintage baseball anymore.
Yeah, it does.
I've
aged out, but I still make stuff.
Aged out? You look like you're 35.
Well, but I still make stuff. I still make baseballs. I still do lemon peels on a small quantity basis because the quality of stuff that I do they're bulletproof, man. The stuff I'm putting together, and I blow my own horn, but I use heavy grade materials. I use heavier grade leather, like 4 to 5, sometimes even 5 to 6.
Yes.
Which is like, you can feel it. It's like, so yeah, life does change. It really does. And I do. I'm going to agree with you. Life does change. It really does. And it's okay to change, and yeah, I've offered to come back as an umpire because I think that's where I can actually help the game, is to teach other people and educate them correctly, because I've done enough reading and research that I really know what's what. And
you get to become,
I should be educating.
Yeah, you get to become the person you wish you had when you stumbled across the VBVA website. That's
exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's what I'm trying to reinsert myself as, like, look, I may not play anymore, but I like to lend a voice when it comes to correctness of uniforms,
Mhm.
because it does matter. Just the authenticity of the equipment, that matters too. And then trying to encourage people to, yeah, come on out and play, come out and give it a try. Because out here it gets hard to recruit people, and to keep it going, and so sometimes, yeah, we do. And I remember that, the guys in the military were just out in their shirt sleeves.
Mhm.
So that's the reason why we have a base rule of just a pair of, of Dickies, Navy Dickies and a roll up white shirt, like, because that's all they were using way out on the territory. That's all they had.
Love it.
We have to remember that. And so I try to push that to say, look, yeah, Arizona was very isolated until the development of the railroad really took off. And that wasn't for a while. So yeah, the things change, and back in the day when I remember writing it, I remember going to get this done, because it seemed like the research and everything was stretching on forever, that I had to make a decision about how I was spending my time, and I just kind of turned into a hermit.
And then you got married.
Yeah.
You, I have a quick question. Like, maybe I missed this and I apologize. When was the very first game of the very first vintage baseball game? Like, when you finally got it together, you got enough people out there. When was that? What was that like?
We were out in Sun City West with
Okay.
a great group of people, retirees.
Okay.
And I remember, I hope he's still around. His name's Herb Clark. He's from St. Louis area, St. Charles, Missouri. And he grabbed a group of his friends, and I think we had our first actual, like, official game out at the Liberty Field at Sun City West, and it was in November of 2008. I want to say it was like the 10th or the 11th, and it was a very early team I had put together. The Bees, from honoring my hometown of Bisbee. I had dark blue uniforms, the white trim, and versus the Sun City West Black Stallions. We went 15 innings to a tie.
Oh, wow.
We dragged it out. It was a slugfest.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
That
Back and forth, a lot of great defense. And after 15 innings, we're both looking at each other like, well, do you want to just keep going? And they're like, we're tired, you're tired, we're all just going to call it a tie. So we had to call it a tie, and went to the clubhouse and shared beer.
That's
afterwards.
awesome.
Spectacular. It was a lot of fun.
15-inning tie for the very first reincarnation.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And we had a full house too. We did. They had nice stands out there. I swear the stands were full, and even the area back behind had a full concession stand, and the PA was going. I mean, it was like, yeah, it was a scene.
When it got into the extra innings, were the spectators into it, waiting for a winner, or do you think maybe you should have just threw a run to the other team and ended it?
It got rabid, because let me tell you something. I mean, I love the people out in Sun City West, but they all drink. They're all drinkers, man. I'm telling you, they show up in golf carts, and a lot of them. Oh yeah, there was a lot. You could smell the wine coolers from behind home plate.
Yes.
Yeah, so it got rowdy. They weren't expecting anybody to concede. No. They wanted us to fight it out to the finish. I mean, I think they were expecting to drag a couple people off the field. They were just expecting us to finish it. And then we were just like, no, I'm like, I don't think any one of us wanted to go any further. I don't know. I think that was how it was supposed to have ended, is in a tie.
Totally.
You mentioned earlier that you're still making balls. Now, I know everybody that's listening to this episode just perked up when they heard that, because there's one thing that vintage baseball players like to do is try on a new ball for size.
Yeah.
And it's constant, and there's constant talk about balls. So
Yeah.
you're going to have people contacting you to try
Yeah.
to get a ball from you. How do you want them to contact you?
Okay, so you got to go through Facebook Messenger. I am working on a website and more of a e-commerce stuff that's more streamlined. But yeah, contact me through Facebook. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
And I'm sure people will be contacting you about your balls very soon. Hey, Darrin, we're going to go ahead and take that break.
Okay.
We got a news break coming up, and Darrin's going to go hook up a guitar for us. So
Yeah. Which one should I do though? I mean, because I got a slide guitar here.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that.
Okay, maybe I'll look that one up.
Yeah.
I'll get my white fang out. I haven't brought my white fang out. So yeah,
All
I'll
right.
be right back.
all right. And while he's gone, we're going to play this news break from Jonathan Macklin. And Rudy, you're not going to hear it. I'm sorry. Eventually, we'll get technology underway. But we got some intro music here for Jonathan this week that you didn't hear. And here he is.
This is your Barrel News Break for Wednesday, June 2nd, 1869. I'm Jonathan McLean. Dateline, Cincinnati. The Red Stockings have had a busy year so far. Today, they defeated the Independent Baseball Club of Mansfield by a final score of 48-14. Around 500 spectators were treated to a 2-hour, 55-minute game that seemed over from the start. George Wright led the Redlegs as he and his squad put up 16 runs in the second inning alone. 2 weeks earlier, on May 16th, the Reds played the Antioch College Club. Reports had that the Antioch boys represented themselves very well in their all-gray uniforms with an Old English A on the front. Mr. Birch's pitching was very swift, and their defense was very strong. They are considered the strongest amateur team in the entire state of Ohio, save for maybe the Forest City Baseball Club of Cleveland. The Cincinnati hitting was described as being poor on this day, but in the end, the college boys couldn't be the flies in the ointment or the monkeys in the wrench. Final score, Cincinnati 41, Antioch 7. I'm Jonathan McLean, and this has been your Roller Out the Barrel News Break.
All right. That was Jonathan Macklin. And I just want everybody to know that listens to these news breaks. All of the information that Jonathan puts on these news breaks is historically accurate. He's not making anything up. So, although you might look at it as a segment that you didn't know was historically accurate, now you can go back and listen to them because those are all accurate facts with Bruce Willis Easter eggs in every episode. So Rudy, you heard it. I don't know why.
I heard it. It was great. Oh my gosh. Jonathan Macklin is an artiste. Let me tell you that.
Well, he's amazing. And if you don't know who Jonathan Macklin is, then you're not in the Midwest. I think that's how we go on that. Hey, as we're waiting for Darrin to finish up his setup of his musical instrument playing that he's going to do for us, I wanted to hit something to see why can't you hear this? Can you not hear this?
I can't hear that.
It's just the button next to it. I don't understand. Why would one button? Nothing?
Nope.
That's crazy to me. How am I supposed to figure that out? Did you hear the music intro to the Jonathan? No.
No.
You just
I promise you I'm not gaslighting you and being like, I just can't hear it.
that's nuts. I'm gonna have to check out what the file is on that stuff. Anyway, enough chit chat about that. Darrin, just give us a thumbs up when you're ready, whenever you're ready you're ready to go. So now we're going to learn more about Darrin on a personal level. And when you go to Darrin's Facebook page, you see a lot of guitar references. Obviously, he can play. And we're going to have him play the theme to every 90s baseball movie ever played. Darrin, begin.
Let him get it. Let's get him on mute.
Yeah, every 90s baseball movie. Right. Right.
Well, let's have you take a little strum of the guitar, if that's a term anymore, and so I can make sure that this isn't going to blow everybody's ears off.
I'm waiting for the Back to the Future. Oh, that's
Rudy, how's that coming through on your end?
that sounded. I'm gonna unmute myself. It sounded pretty good, but yeah, let me just make sure.
I'm getting garbly.
You're getting
garbled.
garbly. Okay, hang on.
Isn't it weird how we get two different audios on this thing?
Well,
So we're gonna have Darrin play something on the guitar, and on the podcast version, you're gonna hear some garble. But when you go to the YouTube version of the interview, you're gonna hear it perfectly. And that means I have to watch an episode of my own show on YouTube this week. Darrin, what are you gonna play?
Yeah. Nice.
I don't hear anything anymore. Do you?
I got nothing.
Okay.
I think Rudy, there's a running theme on this show. If you go back in the archives, is every time I try to have somebody play a musical instrument that they're good at, it goes totally wrong. And so all I heard was Charlie Brown's teacher talking to him.
Oh, you heard you wow.
That's it.
My favorite. It was coming through kind of, and then it went real silent for a little bit, and then it was just we're like,
a lot of feedback.
It's. I think you should have went acoustic. Anyway. Well, we appreciate you trying. And so we're not so good at this thing, so we don't even know what to do to fix all that. But
I'm going to credit the good people with Epiphone.
Oh, look at that.
The white thing. This is a George Thorogood's one of his stage guitars.
Oh,
that this thing will rattle the house because I've got a bigger tube amp, and it will shake the rafters.
Wow.
Is this an actual George Thorogood guitar or just like the same model that he would use?
So Epiphone in 2018, they did a limited run of his stage guitars, his White Fang, the white one he uses on stage, because what happened is that he was actually, he would go on stage with these old guitars, Gibson ES 125s, and he just beat the crap out of him, right? And the Gibson ES 125, it's a thin line, it's a student model guitar. And so eventually he went to Epiphone and they approached him and said, yeah, I actually need a different stage guitar. And they actually made this for him. And there's been so much interest that they did a short run, very short run. So I actually picked up the guitar from Milano's, who I'm repping with the shirt.
There you go.
Sight unseen, which I never buy a guitar sight unseen. It's like, you're asking for bad mojo. And so it's been a killer guitar. I like the pickups. I like, just like everything about it. It has a different feel to it. But the right amplifier, and this is only just I love this little Honeytone amp. It does so much in a tiny little package. Like it's only a 5-watt amp with a 1.5-inch speaker.
Oh.
And you can run it off a 9-volt battery.
Oh, nice.
I know. Oh. And I picked it up for like Amazon for like $26. And it's a $45 amp.
Nice.
So I got a heck of a deal on it. It's like, it sounds great. So
My-
I whale the crap out of it. So
I mean, folks, if you're listening on the podcast, check out the YouTube page so you can see this this beautiful guitar. My wife, well, my father-in-law is a like an amateur bluegrass musician, and my
nice.
wife's grandfather is an accomplished banjo player. So that whole side of the family is very musical, and then there's me. I can't carry anything, let alone a tune or so like I just admire it. And so yeah, it's exciting. Let me ask you this question. I mean, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. I'm sorry. Mount Rushmore, guitarist, go for you.
What, are you just gonna ruin?
Ooh.
Are you just gonna ruin the end? I gotta take this question out of the giving him the old pepper. Well, we're
This
just
was gonna be the.
Ow.
Wait a second. You
Another
pre-planned
one.
giving him the old pepper? All right. You know what? You get
Let me cross that off, and we'll
No,
talk about it right now.
Did you see
Let
the
me
pain that
cross
came
it.
across his face? Let's let the man think about it then. That
All right.
you study now.
Okay, I gotta write. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna split between two regular guys and then two slide guys.
Okay, fair enough.
Obviously, in my opinion, the pinnacle of the mountain is Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Okay.
hands down. I
Then-
saw him play here in Arizona when I was about 12. Caught him at the Arizona State Fair. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd never seen anybody do that with a guitar with his fingers. I mean, it was just mesmerizing.
My
Right behind him in a close second.
what you don't have to save the list for the old pepper.
No. He can go right now. Rudy,
Okay.
you've already ruined it. You've ruined it.
I'm a ruiner.
Oh, the error.
So
Okay.
Darrin can go ahead with his Mount Rushmore right now. It's not going to take. He knows guitar players. It's not
I
going to take
know.
him that long.
It's not going to take you long. Right behind you is Jimmy Page,
Okay.
the man, the myth, the legend, Jimmy Page. Does so much. He can do everything. Very versatile. Number 3, Mississippi Fred McDowell for me. He categorizes a lot of kind of the very early just gospel blues fusion for me. Very good acoustically. His electric stuff's great. All in all, foundational kind of a guy. And honestly, here's one other dude that he's a modern good guy that kind of pays homage to a lot of the older players. What was it? Rev Payton.
Rev Payton.
Guy named Rev Payton. He's part of Rev Payton's Big Damn Band. And he's from the Bloomington, Indiana area.
Okay.
Wonderful slide guitar player. He plays in the style of like Son House and Charlie Pat.
That's a
all that
mountain of a
stuff.
man.
He's a big boy. Seen him several times. Whenever you go to his shows, 1, the ticket prices are usually low, but 2, you're gonna get every penny's worth because he'll blow you away with stage presence, energy, how he plays the guitar, and then he does a lot of original writing that's pretty darn good. And he's got a podcast, Hard Times and Weirdness, that is flat out awesome. So yeah, Rev Payton. I mean,
Darrin, can you tell everybody what you mean when you say a slide guitarist?
So what I mean by slide guitar is, have you ever seen a guy and they've got a tube of glass or metal on one of their fingers, and they use it to kind of glide up and down on the top of the strings? And it sounds different. It really broke into America because of Hawaiian music. The lap steel from Hawaii was very popular in the 20s. So guys on the plantation in the South start picking it up, saying, hey, that sounds pretty cool. I wonder if I could use like a broken piece of glass, like a bottle or a bottleneck, to make the same sound. But yeah, it's used to kind of bend, and it's almost like a movable fret.
Yeah.
A slide is a movable fret. So you have a lot of tonal range and fluid movement with notes. That the slide technique is the closest a guitar player can get to being able to replicate the human voice and being able to change pitch.
You mean like how Richie Sambora blows into that tube for that one Bon Jovi song? Is that
Kind
is that
of.
what the second?
Yeah, but it's been around a lot longer.
Let me
Glass
let me
bottle
ask
and
you,
strings.
how do you feel about Phil Collin, the lead guitarist for Def Leppard? I noticed he wasn't on your list.
Yeah.
And any thoughts on Vivian Campbell, the backup guitar player on Def Leppard? Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah.
When
I
Love
know.
and Hate Collide by Def Leppard. Banger. Okay. Rudy,
Give the
who's your
thumbs down. I
favorite?
hate it.
Who's your favorite guitar player, Rudy?
My
Because we're going to
favorite.
agree on this. Your favorite guitar player, Rudy, and then we're going to get Darren's thoughts on who we both say because we're going to agree.
You and I are going to agree on this.
We're going to agree on this.
I think. I don't think. I think we're going to agree.
You don't think we're going to agree?
My favorite guitar tape player is Prince.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
Prince.
that's
Okay.
solid. No, I'll tell
Prince
you why.
is the greatest
Prince is
guitar
like,
player of all time.
no, he's not. He's one of
No,
the greatest musicians of all time.
Very, very
True. Very
Very
good
true.
guitar player, but for me, I look at more of his composition stuff.
Yeah.
Sure, there are better people technically, and I think to me, Prince is probably one of the best musicians because
Yeah.
he could do a lot more than just guitar work.
Yeah.
I think that's where he excels. At least that in my mind, he excels on everything he did. It was so good, ridiculous.
That was nerve-wracking for me, Barrel Roller. That was a true test of friendship right there. I was like worried you were going to say, like, you brought up
No.
Richie Sambora. I got nervous.
when Prince plays My Guitar Gently Weeps at
Oh,
the
yeah.
George Harrison tribute concert, I've never been touched emotionally more by a guitar performance. And when Prince is playing at the halftime of the Super Bowl and it's raining and they ask him, is there anything that we can do? Is there anything that we can do to help you with all of this rain and everything? And his answer was, can you make it rain harder?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That,
That's a guitar player.
He's asking for the thunder right there. That's
That-
what a great does.
yeah.
He's like, okay, no. Feed me more. Like the Marshawn Lynch, feed me more.
Yeah.
That's what the greats do. You're like, no. Kind of like the Rock, standing in the middle of the ring. Bring it, jabroni. Just stick it right in your face. Give it to me. Come on, hit me with it.
It's funny. I had an emotional moment at the Buddy Guy concert about 13 some years ago.
Buddy.
I liked
about Buddy.
I liked Buddy when he did Feels Like Rain. I was like, oh, whoa. It was an intense moment. But I did want to take a moment. You chose another hobby in your life that gonna put these babies to danger here, these fingers. Did it ever happen where you're like, oh, or was that a constant fear? Like, did you make sure that every ball was caught, hands wide open, ready to go? Any mechanical injuries?
Oh gosh, I've been dinged out more than I care to admit. I mean, I have broken fingers catching an overhand 1884 game up at Fort Verde.
Jeez.
We were doing an overhand game.
How long were you on the shelf before you could play again?
Good 3 months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's a
special one. Look at that.
Yeah.
You got one.
It was a passed ball. I went to go get it. I still slid over, and it was a rough parade ground. That's for cavalry. And not only did it cut through the right leg, because I've got that laceration, like a laceration scar, below my right knee. I bled into my sock like freaking Kurt Schilling on the Core World Series. I still finished the game because we didn't have anybody else. My leg was numb. I didn't feel a dang thing.
Is your sock in the Hall of Fame?
It should be.
Your sock in the Hall of Fame?
If there was a vintage Hall of Fame, I swear that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Another guitar performance that touched me emotionally, Def Leppard, MSU Breslin Center, Making Love Like a Man. Darrin?
In my time of dying, Led Zeppelin, but it was the new concert at the O2 Arena. To see Jimmy Page, he has 80,000 people spellbound as he's playing slide guitar on a huge Gibson hollow body.
Oh,
I believe the best slide guitar performance ever in a movie is Jeff Healey in Roadhouse. Am I wrong on that?
You are not wrong. You are dead right. There's a lot of right with that movie, and Jeff Healey is at the top of the list. And they put him in there. I'm like, oh my god, they used the real guy and then just let him do his thing. I'm like, holy shit.
There's no way they would need even for the least behaving crowd. You don't need to put a fence up in front of Jeff Healey. No one's going to mess with him. Unbelievable that they would actually put that in the movie. Everyone's going to listen to him and leave him alone.
Oh. Yeah, that was Jeff Healey. I have to say I was saddened when Jeff Beck died.
Yeah.
Like suddenly. I don't know a lot about Jeff Beck, except and sadly I know everyone's going to be upset by that. Jeff Beck just never came into my life except award show time because he was always winning stuff. But I'm sad. I'm sorry.
He did some stuff with Buddy. Check out his take with Buddy on Mustang Sally. A tune called Mustang Sally. It's a rework of the Wilson Pickett tune.
Yeah.
Screaming, scorching guitar that will melt the wax in your ears.
Much like when Taylor Swift joined Def Leppard on a rendition of Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Oh my.
What was better? All right, pop star of the rock band. No. I'm going to do you one better. Lady Gaga with Metallica. I think it was at one of the award shows. I think it was at the Grammys a few years ago in 2019. Lady Gaga and the mighty Metallica. You cannot go wrong with that combo.
I don't think so because I love Metallica and I'm a huge Gaga fan.
You're a Gaga?
I love
Gaga.
I love the Gaga.
Yes.
Yeah. And they filmed a lot of the production of it and put it up on YouTube on Metallica's YouTube channel, like a rockumentary.
Yeah.
Check it out, dude. It's great footage.
Oh. There is a band. I don't want to call them a band, but I listen to Two Cellos because I love Two Cellos, even though they have broken up and don't exist anymore. But there is another band out there that does the same kind of thing, and they do all Metallica. I think they're from like Sweden or Finland or something like that. Yeah, and it's all Metallica, and it's amazing. I love it.
It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
I wish I could tell you more, but I can only tell you how good Phil Collins was on Photograph. Def Leppard.
Jeez.
Hey, Darrin, we're going to get you out of here, but before we go, we're going to give you the old pepper that has one less question on it because Rudy ruined it. If you've ever listened to an episode and actually gone all the way through, this is how we end the episode with people. It's quick questions with quick answers.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. Rudy probably can't. Nobody can hear this music probably, but it's playing. We're gonna start off, Darrin, with you naming an overrated guitar player. Don't you dare say Phil Collins. I will turn this car around. Name an overrated guitar player.
Joe Bonamassa.
What is the best?
Sorry, get me up on stage with my slide guitar. It's over.
What is the best Mexican restaurant in Mesa, Arizona?
I'll do you one better. I'll do it in Arizona. It's the original El Chato in Tucson, Arizona. Started in the same house in 1927. Bang, it's the best one in the state.
I notice you don't like to talk about Mesa, but you talk about Tucson a lot. Do you not live in Mesa anymore?
Okay, in Mesa, I do live in Mesa. In Mesa, probably the best one is a little tiny place. It's next to Milano's. It's a little tiny place called Mangoes. Fantastic people. The burritos are stunning. Everything about that. The menu is great. And the prices, even better.
By the way, Def Leppard on the soundtrack for Last Action Hero and Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle was Stevie Ray Vaughan ever on the soundtrack for an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? I'm just asking for a friend.
Didn't need to be.
Well,
When you're considered the blues messiah, you don't need to be.
We'll agree to disagree. Name one of your favorite scary movies.
Ooh, favorite scary movies would have to be the original Frankenstein with Boris Karloff.
Who was the girl? You don't have to give us the full name, but tell us the name of the first kiss.
I remember that far back. Been a long time ago, and I got a concussion history.
There were just
You
so
don't remember
many.
your first kiss.
I was a young lady when I went away to trade school. Her name was Michelle, and she was from
You're gonna
Douglas.
have a dream about Michelle tonight. You're welcome. On a scale of 1 to 10, one being the most pleasant, 10 being the most unpleasant, what is the humidity like in the crotchal region during a vintage baseball game in Arizona?
Humidity region. Okay. It's probably gonna be 3, maybe 4. It's pretty dry out here.
What is the pizza situation in Arizona?
Okay, so there's a lot of people from either Chicago or New York, and you got to choose between the two. It's either Chicago or New York. You can't go down the middle. And we all know what the right answer is, don't we?
Yes.
New York.
I want to be able to fold my pizza, not swim in it. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't need to, bring out a knife and a fork or a welding torch or hammer and chisel.
Yes.
Darrin, or John, as the government calls you, what was the first concert you ever went to?
This is a great one. This is such a great one. It was actually Blues Traveler.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was
John
so
Popper.
hoping you were going to say
Yeah.
Def Leppard.
No, it was not Def Leppard. What's this pick with Def Leppard?
No, I just was hoping, as a to go full circle for you to just say, "Oh my God, it was Def Leppard." Actually, Blues Traveler, probably a good concert.
He was good. He was with Lenny Kravitz. His Blues Traveler
Whoa.
and Lenny Kravitz as a twin bill.
Did
I
you know
remember
Lenny
going
Kravitz?
all the way out to West Phoenix. It was hotter than freaking hell. It was like 116. Yeah. Blistering hot. Stayed for the whole show. Oh, it was great.
Lenny Kravitz, his mom was on the Jeffersons.
Good point.
Does everybody know that?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I did not know that.
And his daughter is Catwoman.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
What was the first car you ever had?
My first car was a 66 Ford Mustang.
Dang.
Oh,
And
jeez.
289
on.
for the C6.
Who gave
C4
you
Mustang.
that?
Who gave it to me?
Yeah, who gave
It
you
wasn't
that?
given to me. I had to work for that.
Dang.
As a
I had to-
first car.
I had to deal
Oh.
with my dad that I put up half the money and he put up half. And then I was responsible for a lot of the mechanics. Like, nope, got to change everything, do my own brakes, tune, get the
Dang.
carburetor going. I was responsible for insurance and gas. So, yeah,
Jeez.
I
Darrin,
was a
how many-
responsible kid, but I had a cool car.
Yeah.
Sure. How many squirrels would it take to kill a moose?
Are they armed?
No.
I have no idea. At least 1,000. An army of
Where
those
did
little bastards.
are you? I know that you got married. Did you get divorced?
No, not to my collection. No, at least
You're
not
still-
yet.
you're still married. Okay.
At least not
Well,
yet.
I wanted to make sure that you were still married. I'm going to ask you, where did you take your wife on your first date?
We went to.
Def Leppard concert.
No, it was not a Def Leppard concert. I swear, he's angling so bad, isn't he?
In Mesa.
No, it was. I took her out
They're
to dinner at
worldwide.
a nice steakhouse called the Keg.
Nice.
And we thank you for being on the show. Last question is, what is your Mount Rushmore of Def Leppard songs? Go on.
It's been blown up. Def Leppard tunes. Oh goodness gracious!
Are Armageddon it. That's one for you. I'm sure you were a huge
Photograph
Armageddon.
isn't too bad.
Rock of
Especially-
Ages.
Hysteria.
The previously mentioned Two Steps Behind in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Jeez.
Darrin, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming on.
guys.
Yeah. You've moved up to after authoring and playing vintage baseball. I really hope you get into the umpiring that you alluded to being interested in. Vintage baseball loves you, and I'm sure of it because you've been requested to be on the show. That the Arizona territory.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
I found that to be surprising, quite honestly.
It is a true statement. I never BS. And you are thought of highly by the people that I talk to anyway.
No, thank you. Thank you
And,
those people who may have been misled.
So we appreciate you coming on the show. And once again, if they want to get a hold of you to get some, you got really passionate talking about your balls and how
Yeah.
and the craftsmanship and the different materials and the love is still there, Darrin.
Mhm.
The baseball love you have inside, it's still there. We saw it come out.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost broke down and cried like last Christmas. I was trying to get a Ebbetsville Flannels did their line of the vintage sweaters,
Oh yeah.
like the Giants, Tigers, the Philadelphia Athletics, and I on a website glitch missed out on one, and it's still right here. Here we are. Early March, and I'm still feeling it. So,
Do you have it in your searches in your filters for eBay?
well, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a saved search. I'm getting email alerts for everything. Yeah, I'm searching high and low. Yeah.
Somebody finds one of those sweaters, get a hold of Darrin. Darrin,
Exactly,
you were
yes.
great. Thanks for gracing us with your presence. And I'm sorry the guitar segment did not come out. But
That's okay.
That's about par for my course, as I've had many a guitar and piano segment go terribly wrong. In fact, it's almost fun for me at this point. I don't know. Rudy, go ahead and say what you got to say and get us out of here.
Oh, friends, for Darrin and the Barrel Roller, I'm the Swamp Fox, and we'll see it as well. Sorry, I got women.
Is this the first time you've done this?
Yeah, I was
Rudy, go ahead.
waxing nostalgic about everything, and then I was thinking about how we could have the Roller Out the Barrel musical segment, and it could just be silence. And then
That's what it is.
Well,
You have to cut to the YouTube.
Yeah.
Cut to the video.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize. This has been a treat, friends. All right. Spring is coming, especially here in the Midwest. Don't worry, the warmer days are around the corner. We want to tell you to keep it station to station, and we'll see you out in the field.
Long live the leopard.